Hello everyone, my name is Rushikesh Patel. I, along with my partner Mansi Pokiya, are going to present our experimental work on micro project 2, which is compare and analyzing the physicochemical property of yogurt made with different milk fat content. Now I'm going to start the presentation with an introduction, which will give you the basic idea of our experiment. Here we are working on yogurt. So first we need to understand what is yogurt. Yogurt is a traditionally fermented dairy food product which is produced by fermenting the milk with a lactobacillus bacteria. These bacteria are normally used to make the yogurt, and they are also known as yogurt culture. In the fermentation process, these bacteria generate lactic acid by fermenting the sugar in the milk, which react with the milk protein to give yogurt that is viscous and has a very smooth texture along with tart taste. Yogurt generally contains 81% of water, 4% carbohydrate, 9% protein, 4% sugar, and has a high content of probiotic, which keeps our gut healthy, preventing any chance of gut disease. This nutrition composition in yogurt is based on the nutrition and fat composition of milk from which it was made. Yogurt made from the high milk fat content has higher nutrition value and physicochemical characteristics. Now, if I talk about the aim, so the aim of our study is to determine the effect of milk fat content on the yogurt and to analyze and compare the physicochemical characteristics of prepared yogurt. The results from this experiment can give us a clear idea of how different milk fat content affect the quality and flavor of yogurt production. Now I'm going to hand over the next slide to my partner Mansi Pokiya.
Hi, myself Mansi Pokiya. Now I'm going to explain the materials which we used in this experiment. We used milk, which is made up of different fat content, different measuring cups to measure the milk, stove to boil the milk, pH strips, thermometer to measure temperature, and the pan for boiling the milk. Um, this is our experimental variables. In this study, for the independent variable in this study, total 3 independent variables were used, which were time, temperature, and milk fat content that can be modified according to the required result. Here, time is the incubation period for the culture inoculum to convert the milk into yogurt. Temperature and the milk fat content were an important variable to compare the result of yogurt. Dependent variables. Dependent variables are observable and measurable factors. In this study, total 4 dependent variables were selected, and that were viscosity, pH, texture, and flavor of the finally prepared yogurt. The viscosity of yogurt depends on the production of lactic acid by the culture. High viscosity is a characteristic of any best quality of yogurt. Yogurt are acidic in nature, whereas milk are neutral and slightly acidic. The pH of yogurt is around 4.3 to 4.4, whereas the pH of milk is around 6.5 to 6.7%. So, pH is an essential factor to characterize the yogurt, which is also act as endpoint for the yogurt fermentation process. In this experiment, we used positive control and negative control. The high fat contained milk, which contain 10% fat, is our positive control, and the milk with 0% fat content is our negative control. Next is methodology. In this experiment, we used a different fat contained milk. The fat content we used was 1%, 2%, 3.25%, 0%, and 10%. which is brand seal test. The sample was collected from the grocery store. Uh, the 250 ml of milk was weighed and poured into cooking pan and was allowed to boil the milk on the heating stove at 180 Fahrenheit. Once it reaches a desired temperature, which is measured with thermometer, the pan was removed from the stove. It allows to cool down at 1110 to 150 Fahrenheit. Then the cool milk was transferred into 250 ml cups. Then 2 teaspoons of starter culture was added to the milk. The inoculated milk was allowed to mix properly with the help of stirring rod to spread the culture uniformly. Then the cup was covered properly with the lid and allowed to incubate at room temperature for at least 10 to 12 hours. After 10 to 12 hours, a thick and viscous layer formed in the cups, which confirmed the formation of yogurt. Finally, the prepared yogurt was characterized by analyzing the pH, texture, viscosity, and flavor. Now, this is the result. We are going to discuss about the result of our controls first. The positive control, which was 10% and had good texture, that was very smooth, sweet and sour in taste and had very thick and creamy viscosity compared to the negative control, which yogurt made with 0% milk fat content and had not smooth texture compared to the 10% fat contained milk. It has sour taste and slightly watery in viscous.
Now we are going to discuss the results of the yogurt which is made from the 1%, 2%, 3% milk fat content. So here the yogurt which is made up with 1% has a lowest viscosity among all of them, and also it has a mild and sour taste than compared to the other samples. And apart from this, there is a very common factor among all these three samples, that is pH and texture, which is remain same for all the three samples, as the pH is around 4 and the texture is smooth for all the samples. Now this is the result of the pH strips, which is acidic, and that is characterized by the color change of pH strips from yellow to orange, which indicates the acidic nature of the yogurt. Now, in the discussion section, the yogurt made up with the highest fat content is thicker than 0%, 1%, 2%, and 3.25%, whereas the yogurt made with zero fat content has a lower viscosity, which is a similar result for both trial and the same as the previous trial. For the trial A, it took almost 11 hours to form the yogurt, whereas for trial B, the yogurt was made within 10 hours. This was because the temperature was different in both the trials. On the basis of these results, we can conclude that the temperature affects in the process. Yogurt is made a bit faster at high temperature around 20 to 25 degree. Temperature also plays an important role in the formation of yogurt. Slightly change in the temperature may vary the result drastically in the formation of yogurt, because the bacteria that produce lactic acid has an optimum temperature for their growth. And also here the pH, which is measured by pH strips, shows acidic for both trials. From the conclusion, we can draw that it is possible to produce low-fat yogurt of good quality, but the yogurt made up from the high-fat content has the highest viscosity with creamy and pudding texture, as well as with excellent in texture and flavor. In contrast, The yogurt made from the 0% milk fat content has a watery consistency with a low viscosity and poor in taste.
This is the reference. Thank you for listening.